All right. Hello. We should be live. I believe. And
Hello,
and yeah, Tim is here. So
Tim. Hi, it's Tim.
welcome,
How you doing?
welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
Very good to have you here. I don't know if you wanna. I don't know if you wanna. Just quickly discuss maybe what's happened to Jim, as I know you know him quite well.
Yeah, so apparently Jim has been dropping malicious content, malware on Twitch, apparently. So I don't know what it's for. It's either picked up that I was promoting a referral link or some sort of bots have mass reported my account or something like that. So
Yeah.
rip.
Well. Yeah. I Have they given you an indication of what the band length is?
Permanent.
Shut up. Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
what does it
permaband?
say? Uh, what does it
Jeez.
say? Due to the severe nature of this violation, or the fact that you've incurred multiple violations, your access switch service is indefinitely restricted. So,
Wow. I mean, I guess that tells you in future don't compete with my time slot, right?
hey, this has been my time slot for weeks now. I reckon you've sent the bots. I think
Yeah.
it's you that's.
Yeah, I have. I said I clicked this ref link in this guy's Twitch channel. I lost all my money. So I don't know what it is, but it looks like a gambling site.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I do have a YouTube channel though.
okay,
So,
cool. Yeah, you're gonna have to migrate over there. So, how far did you get in your stream before the plug was pulled?
so I was just saying death to Bitcoin.
Okay, I
Uh,
mean, maybe shouting death to things. You should have said in Minecraft afterwards. To
You're probably gonna get banned from YouTube now.
no, no, no,
No,
no.
no.
We're fine. Everything is all Minecraft related. Any death, Minecraft, in game
Mm.
only. We'll make sure
Uh,
everything's clarified. So you were saying death to Bitcoin because you don't like the way it looks currently. You just playing on the macro continuation. You think death is imminent. What's the
Well,
overall
one thing I
thought?
was touching on was the CVD, the CVD for the move up
Mm-hmm.
relative to the CVD for the move down. Like it's taken an absolutely monumental effort to push price to where it topped out at,
Yeah.
and it's come down on like farts basically. So it
Okay.
just tells me that there's real no depth on the bid side
Yeah.
and plenty of depth on the sell side. So.
Okay. And what about in terms of was it CVD that CL was discussing the other day
Mm,
for ETH?
oh yeah, he was interpreting it as bullish somehow.
Yes.
I have
So
no
what's it?
idea.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's lost his mind.
Okay. Okay. So I think what was his underlying thought? Was his underlying thought because he didn't believe it was basically like a retail driven increase? It was assuming that those smaller players who are shifting CBD to that extent are potentially not as active in the market, and therefore it had to be larger powers that would be taking
Oh yeah,
long
it's definitely
positions.
definitely larger powers, but it wasn't. There was some basically what it's been. It's been very much redistribution. So it's been majority short covering with some gambling from smaller participants. So the small lot traders are still gambling on bullish momentum,
Yep.
whereas and but yeah, it's mainly short covering. So it's basically it's Taylor's old site. It's been happening for weeks now. Small lot traders are basically buying into big lot traders' asks and then making no impact. Okay, so it's
Sure.
basically your 10K trade size, let's say, is basically buying into 100K sell size and getting nowhere. Um, so yeah,
And I
because
think
open interest is pretty much flatline. It's not
sure.
really changed, whereas CVD's gone up drastically, which is obviously telling me that that's a lot of short covering.
Yeah. Sure. Um, I really liked Adam's post yesterday. I don't know if you saw it on BTC higher time frame.
No, I didn't, to be honest.
Um, where he was just looking at each of the highs that we've kind of come back into and retested during larger sell-offs, and making the case that from this perspective we've kind of already started to potentially see the high formed here, in terms of we've seen every tap of daily highs get rejected and form a fresh low. Failure at the first daily resistance, and making the case that 20,000 essentially here is going to be a slap down level, or 21,000 for us is going to be a slap down
Yeah.
level. And I kind of like that as like the overall take, and I think it also, what it probably does is helps people to. One of my biggest things so far, I think, has still been this, like, I feel as though people are operating 100 miles an hour. Like, I feel as though everybody is like, when's the bottom so the bull run resumes again? Like, everybody still feels in the mindset of like, it's over soon, right? Like, it's almost like we're waiting for a price target to get hit, and then all the bad times are over, and we're just gonna trade upwards then. And I think
Well,
this,
my one of my thoughts is I constantly see it's as though people can't comprehend that the market can trend as aggressively down as it did up from September 20 to April 21. No one ever really questioned that trend and the severity and strength of that trend. But as soon as it does it inversely, everyone expects a different outcome.
yeah.
Um, but I've found, especially with crypto, that it tends to trend in equal measures. Once it gets moving, it doesn't stop until it's finished.
Well, it's typically, yeah, it's typically, we've always seen it more of like a snowball effect, like, and actually like the aggression tends to ramp as our trend flourishes, as we would expect to see. But we typically see that, and there's no exception on the downside to that. The other thing that kind of is hand in hand with that is the expectations for greater. And I always try and use the bull market reference for that. I think when you consider some of the way that the alts have responded so far in the rallies off the original lows, we've got alts that are 60, 70, 80% up. Some of them have 2x'd, and they're hugely significant counter trend rallies. But because they look fucking minuscule now on a chart, I think it throws off your perception of just how kind of strong a counter trend rally has been, and therefore could be exhausted at what would still be shitty price points for people.
Yeah,
And it's the same as when we were trending upwards. When we were trending upwards, loads of people got frozen out of the bull run because they were expecting too deep a pullback. Right, they were like, oh, when this dips like 30%, then I'll be a buyer. Right, this level here is where I'll look at being a buyer, and I think that's probably been to the detriment of shorters so far, which again is just exactly the same as we saw in the trending market of 2020 onwards, which is
yeah,
your expectations are too great, and so when we're looking at short targets, very often people's short targets are too high for what the market is going to provide.
exactly.
Um,
And like I'd say, like if we take that uh, the bull market from 2020 to 2021, the pullbacks were around 30% in that area. The pullbacks we're getting on this downtrend are similar in size, 25, 26, 35%.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
like BTC's
relatively,
25% off the low again, the same way as it was
that's
back in May.
like people are saying, are we going to get any mean reversion? 25% is a pretty substantial mean reversion
Yeah. Yeah,
in
yeah,
a
yeah.
trending market. You're not you're mean reverting a trend. You're not mean reverting a range at the minute.
Yeah.
So you can't expect it to come all the way back to the previous range in a trend because then it wouldn't be a trend. So
Yeah, and like just examples, Sol is 66% off the low. I know that AVAX is, significantly up off the low as well, 60% off the low, hitting into the first resistance point. A lot of these markets, especially alts, have moved incredibly well. Lux, I know, is up, 2x from the lows minimum. There have been, substantial rallies. And again, from a very simplistic overview, I think AVAX is a really good chart for this illustration. AVAX basically just came up, tapped into the first support, well, the first former support, now resistance, and failed. And again,
glorious, actually.
yeah,
You got the divergence
yep,
and the bounce into the 50 on the RSI.
yeah. It's
Like if
just
you can't be happy with capturing a 60% move, Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, what are you expecting? Are you expecting a 4x, a 10x? Like, it's not.
Yeah.
6% is awesome.
Yeah, of course. And like I think this is also the trouble with kind of the mindset in the market currently, which is, the unfortunate thing is we're basically having the exact kind of like psychological punishment for a lot of newer traders or investors, because it's like it's fear and concern here, right? Like down at the lows. And then it's not taking any trade and missing it, and then starting to feel more bullish into this region here.
Yeah,
And that's the unfortunate thing, and that's the unfortunate way it's gone. It's like the confidence develops when we start to see these green pushes, right? And then the FOMO begins, and you see people on Twitter who will now start producing charts that have like targets of up here, right? And like
exactly.
that's where the issue then lies, and you can't see that here's the first resistance, and there is a very good chance of failure at this point. Now I'll be honest. I think that I have expected and still expect to some degree market to be determined. I still think that there is the potential to push higher on these rallies, but that would be reflected by the fact that we would have to overcome some of these kind of sticky points that we're currently at. And even when we're talking about AVAX, we're going to require another significant push from here in order to make a fresh high, right, against this level. You're talking 40% minimum to get back above here. So I think for some markets, Sol has always been one that I've kind of had high hopes for, in terms of clearing some of the action that we've seen in more of the consolidation regions of the trending market. But so far, the market is basically saying to me, I can't do shit past the first obvious failure point, right? Like that's what it's doing, and unfortunately, I just have to take that as gospel truth, and play around with that thought process.
It's funny talking about Sol. I don't know if you remember, but last time we streamed together, I think it was in the hundreds.
Oh, easily in the hundreds. Yeah,
And I said it would get to 20s.
yeah.
And
Yeah, and I think even
no
then
one
I was
believed
like,
me.
yeah, even then I think I was like, oh, that seems like a little bit aggressive. Like I see the 40s, right? Like it was the obvious level. I think it's kind of the 40s.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, I can see like this cluster here. And then you were just like, nah, it's going to take out everything here.
yeah,
And obviously I'm sure your expectations are still that this is the move that will eventually happen,
yeah,
against this.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite a different market since the last time we spoke on the stream. I mean, geez,
Yeah.
we were probably maybe we were back in March somewhere. Maybe we were either pre this rally, in the middle of this rally, or just after it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were certainly, it was probably speaking around this region here. So yeah. Someone says, how low can we go with Sol? My
Uh,
answer to that is always like, just assume the worst. Like if you say zero for how low we can go, as Lunas proved to everybody, then I think you're in the right mindset.
I mean, what's its market cap? 11.8 billion. I mean, come on. If you don't think it can halve in value, minimum,
Yeah.
I think you need your head checking, to be honest.
I
I think
think
a lot of this stuff's still obscenely, overvalued, personally. But
I think you're right, and like I think Luna is a very unfortunate example, right? I absolutely feel for people who got caught up in Luna, and inexperienced investors, etc. Anybody that was sold the dream from Luna. I absolutely sympathize with those people, but Luna is an absolutely incredible example of when people ask the question, how low can something go? Right? Like Luna is now the most wonderful example to say, well, that's where it can go. Like, and it doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't matter if you're top 10, top 5. Like, that is the potential outcome for anything in this market, within reality. So I think Luna, unfortunately, has become, a great case study for, what can potentially happen. Or Jewel. Yeah. Yeah. Fucker.
in my opinion, I think I think crypto's true market cap is significantly smaller than what it is on paper. like two-thirds smaller. Honestly, I think I think 300 billion is like what the true market cap is. Because I look at order flow every day and volume, and like it's just not respected. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
It does not it doesn't reflect a $1 trillion market cap, the kind of volumes and the order flow that you see in this market. I think it's still massively overvalued
Yeah,
relative
sure.
to actually how much money is moving around it.
And did you see like the cutout that I did from the Financial Times maybe a week ago, a couple of weeks ago?
I didn't. I'll be honest. I haven't looked at Twitter
Well,
much.
basically the Financial Times article. It was like one of their absolute destruction pieces on cryptocurrency. Um, and I'll summarize it quickly for you here, and we can see how well your thoughts will align with this. Says there's no template for the behavior of Bitcoin. There's no history to lean on. There's very little to back up the idea that the value in that there is actually value in crypto. It isn't a store of value. Bitcoin is down 70% off its highs and down 25% in the last 5 days. It isn't an inflation hedge, as it would be up 10% this year if it were, and it isn't uncorrelated to interest rates. It doesn't provide a hedge to equity markets, and it isn't better at shifting money around than conventional methods.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
It's
like
a
it was,
vehicle for speculation, in my opinion.
yeah, and like it's a horrible write up in terms of like it's the classic Financial Times, kind of like bearish propaganda. But at the same time, when I was reading it, I was like, I I I can't really argue with any of the points.
Yeah.
I can't really say anything against it. And I think the market, unfortunately, this moment in time is reflecting that until we see a clear divide and shift in terms of, I think that's really kind of the bullish hope is, does the market split, right? Is there a point in which the market does pick up those associations and, the market behaves differently? But
Yeah.
I mean, at this point in time, when I was reading the article, I thought, shit, it's really, it is their absolute, crucifixion piece. But at the same time, there isn't really too much I can kind of say, wait a second, I disagree with that because of this. Right? There's nothing there.
Totally. And one of the things I was thinking a lot about it yesterday. I did tweet some stuff yesterday, but I ended up deleting it because like I wrote it. But like I just think there's too large a majority of participants that have this sort of sense of inevitability, false confidence that it doesn't matter where it is now because of where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think the market needs to test their resolve in order to bottom properly. Like, I want to see those people really start to doubt their own conviction because I just don't see enough, like, doubt, and
Well, I'd say we saw that in 2020, right? Like in terms of like people who were involved at the time.
Mhm.
I would say like March 2020 was the test. Like for me personally, that was the test. You know,
Yeah,
I March 2020, I was like done. Like it's done. Like Mex is done. Like I'm literally here watching the unfolding of this market.
yeah,
Um, there was not a single part of me that wanted to be a buyer. Right? Like,
totally.
there was not one thought process I had of maybe I should buy here. As far as I was concerned during that sell off, if I bought, it would have been zero the next morning.
And like, especially because you had the trauma of sitting through the previous 2 years of your money not really
Yes.
doing anything other than
Yeah.
fluctuating between profit and loss.
Yeah.
uh, And I kind of think we need to go through that period again, sadly, in order to resurrect. I think people need to lose all belief in order to reestablish belief. Because I think belief's way too strong still. I get sick of seeing the likes of fucking Pump and people like that are so sure of themselves. I kind of want them to have egg on their face before I think about buying again. I want the pitchforks out on those kind of morons.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Rabbits makes a good point here. In terms of like post March 2020 was QE, GBTC, and Sailor, and the conditions that we had, and I know that we've spoken about that before in terms of the perfect concoction of fuckery in order to produce the sort of bull run that we had.
Totally. And,
Um,
and what I would say from an order flow perspective, on these bounces, it's almost identical footprint on every move. It's the same amount of volume where it caps price. So it's the same whales that are instigating, like they're basically offloading their shorts. It's usually around 3 to 5 billion in positive delta off the lows. And then that's where it stops because there's no money coming in after that to sustain any sort of upwards momentum. There's just not enough money. There's not enough fresh money coming in to aid in any sort of sustained rally, which is why I think we're going to roll over here personally because it's just too much gone into this tiny move, really. Like really, for a good bottom, you want to see a quarter or a third of the volume going into this kind of move because you really want to see shorts getting squeezed as opposed to covering
sure, yeah.
because then it obviously exacerbates the momentum to the upside where it takes very little buying to actually push price. Whereas now it's a lot of buying happening and it's just the effort the 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 size of move doesn't relate to the effort that's being put in yet. It's too difficult. So
So in terms of let's think in a more positive aspect. Um, what would what would what would Tim be looking for in terms of a buying situation? And like psychology aside, in terms of where we would like to see kind of major pinch points for larger players. What are you looking to see from whether or not you want to base that on macro or just kind of like signal related? What are you looking for in order to
sure.
in
So
order
from
to
an order flow perspective, I want to see aggressive selling not have impact because what we're seeing now is aggressive buying not having impact, and that's not the kind of bottom I want to buy. I want to buy a bottom where there's aggressive selling not making an impact. So I want to see the amount of effort that's gone into this bounce, I want to see put into selling that has as little impact inversely, basically. Because that tells me that there's demand on the other side that's absorbing that sell pressure, and then you're at least going to get a good squeeze out of it. So that's what I'd look for.
and you're looking for that in terms of like short term?
I mean, if it happens short term, I'll take the trade. I've not really seen it yet,
Sure.
but as far as looking at the chart, I have absolutely no interest in buying until it gets round to like 9,700. Like I have, as far as buying long term, like if it gets to 9,700, I'll probably buy without even really thinking.
Okay.
It'll
Sure.
be like an automatic buy based on historical sort of point of control of the
Yep.
last few years.
Yep.
And I think that's where price is gravitating towards now. People don't want to believe it, but we're getting pretty close. And there's really once this 18K level gets exhausted, which I think it probably will, then it's pretty much a straight shot back down there, in my opinion.
Yeah. See see chat all of a sudden just like 9700 what the just like
Yeah,
wait,
and
wait a
I'm the
second.
guy that said $20 Sol about 4 months ago. So
Yeah.
careful,
Yeah.
careful, careful laughing, guys.
Yeah. Now, I think it's like I think it's a really important point because on my streams and obviously on Twitter as well, I discuss the fact that number one, 30K was going to break. I thought that there was every potential based on prior cycles that we would hit 13K. If we just looked historically on the sort of bull market corrections we've seen from peak to lows. They're the sort of corrections that we see. So the 13K level has always been a kind of a level that I've had interest in. And, back when we were trading, I remember when we lost 45K, and that was, again, the time for me to be like, okay, we should have stuck that breakout. When we traded above 45K, we should have stuck the breakout. And as soon as we lost the breakout, it's like that is a really bad fucking sign after 3 months of consolidation that we can't stick the move higher. So that was the kind of like, okay, signal of, well, let's see where the downside takes us. And people at the time were imagining that 13K, is a completely ridiculous total, and you're kind of, just propagating this bearish propaganda by, even mentioning anything going below 30K at the time. But I think the reality of the situation is that those sort of levels should absolutely still remain in your focus. What are your thoughts on, and we saw this at the on the run up in the bull market, where people start to shift their targets, right? Like, their ETH starts trading at 3,000, and they move the targets to 5,000. We get up to 4,800, and they shift the target to 10,000. What are your thoughts on kind of like the bearish side also developing the same thought process? Because, as of now, I see loads of charts indicating 13K. Right, like I see loads of charts and people talking about it, and now I see lots of people talking about, whether or not we're going to go to lower targets. So, do you think that same thought process of like the continual target shift applies equally to the downside expectors?
Uh, Sorry, I'm struggling to.
I'm basically saying, do you think people are going to be like bear-tarded when they get
Well,
down? When
yeah,
like,
of
are
course.
we going to keep on? Are people going to keep on dropping that figure and not see the shift in the market?
I hope so, for my sake,
Yeah.
because that's when I like to operate, when people shift the goalposts,
So you think that
because that's usually what happens at the bottom
yeah.
is people will shift the goal, and that's where they pile in. That's why they pile in when they should be buying.
Yes.
Um, so
Yeah, so I think that, like, I discussed that scenario on Sunday, like, I think it's, like, from my perspective, like, I think it's super important that I don't fall into the trap of, bear posting lower and lower targets when I
you
see that
can
clear shift in the market.
you can bet your ass if we get to 9,800, like I'm saying, 9,700, people's new target will be 6,400
Yeah,
because
of course.
it's
Yeah.
just obvious.
The historic, yeah, the
Yeah, yeah,
fucking
but
PTSD
but
6K level.
I can almost guarantee now that if we get to 9,700, it will be a reactionary level, even if it's only for a few days. It's like one of those mechanical levels where it's going to react most more than likely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Um, so someone says, will you buy ETH when BTC hits 9.7?
no, probably not. I usually rotate into ETH if there's like a real, good indication of a continued trend. Like I
Sure.
did last in 2020, I rotated pretty much my entire stack into ETH at like $360 and rode that up.
Yeah.
And then had a few select alts as well from on DeFi.
So what's your preference in terms of like in terms of where you would look to? Let's say you're looking for crypto exposure. Like, where's your preference? Where are you putting your money to begin with? BTC.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then, this is the thing, like, even if I think I bought close to a bottom or a price where I'm not expecting any. I think people's expectation is it's going to move away from that level very quickly. But I'm sort of anticipating it's going to be probably 12 months of consolidation at least at those levels. So then I'll just be intraday trading and, with an emphasis on neutralizing my exposure all the time. So I'm not, so I'm basically accumulating Bitcoin in that sense instead of right now I'm just, trying to make dollars.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
it's a different mentality when you're categorized in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Yeah. I think that it'll be an interesting one because I think probably both me and you, like certainly you more so over recent weeks. I stopped my bearish posting as a conscious effort to try not to rub salt into wounds for people. But like people would probably characterize us both as kind of like they would see the majority of our content being more bearish leaning posts, kind of like the doom and gloom side of things. So we've always been quite balanced in our analysis and thought process. We're not really kind of the fucking engagement betas of moon or doom in terms of outrageous targets, but people will probably be interested in seeing that shift in your posting, particularly when you do start to speak about bottoms, or hopefully trying to move into the upside, because I think
Yeah, I
for a
was very
while.
small account back then.
Yeah, of course.
But I was degenerate, I was bought. I remember one big lick run in like I think it was October, like 2020. It was like when the DeFi rally really started. I can't quite remember what it was, but we got this like phantom wick down to like $1 on sushi. And I was just aping
Yes, I
hard. I was
remember
just
it.
buying, 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 buying. Like I didn't even care how low it went, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I knew, those were the conditions to do it. But I know full well that it's absolute suicide doing anything like that right now. So
Yeah, I remember Hasaka tweeting about it. I think it was this candle in here.
yes, that was it.
Yeah,
Oh,
December.
it was
Or was it
December.
this? Yeah,
Yeah,
it was definitely that candle. So it was
that
after the
one.
run up, I think, and then
Because
yeah, it just peaked.
I remember everyone was trading at like $1.2, and FTX on the ask had like five sushi at price at 1.2 or whatever it was. And then the next order in the book was $2. So if you bought out five sushi, you were getting slipped like
Yeah.
80% on the rest of your buys, which was savage.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember this sell off, because I think I was looking at the short side because of the run up here and the divergences across the highs. So I
yeah.
remember looking at this region, and then I remember getting the sell off, and obviously then the kind of the return back was so disgustingly
Oh,
quick as well. Because I remember Hasaka tweeting about this as it was happening, because he was also operating in that region as well, as you would expect.
yeah.
So yeah, and then obviously that began the run
DeFi
of
run.
sushi. Yeah.
Epic.
So
I sold mine at 14.
okay, I mean that
So I
was
was very happy with that.
yeah 14,
But
nice little 14x.
yeah, but yeah, I remember that big time. And basically, what I always try and tell people, like you really got to strap a pair on in those situations, because when it's such a violent, fast, inefficient move like that, that's where you want to buy. You don't want to buy. You don't want to buy when it's comfortable and slow moving and you've got time to think. You really want to be. It might sound like terrible advice, but you want to be buying when you haven't really got time to think, because it's every reaction has a reaction, and if it's such a violent move down, the kickback is usually you can get out. Even if you have to reevaluate, you're more than likely going to get out and profit in those situations. So.
Yeah, and again, it probably plays into like the psychological side of, sushi is dead would have been the screams at that point in time, right? And it
Yeah,
like it plays
exactly.
into the psychological nature of like just how aggressive the sell off is, to be a buyer, and to kind of strap on the big boy pants and take the
Yeah.
play.
So
Anybody with any questions for Jim or myself, will structure some of the conversation around.
actually, mind blowing. It's back at dollar. I've only just noticed.
When I went to it, then I was like, "Shit, we're under where those initial buys would have been."
Staggering. I remember I bought Aave as well at 77, and that's
Yes.
lower
Yeah.
than that
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Um, question here from Sean says, "Do you play on the notion of narratives for a cycle? Like we had the alt L1s, DeFi, etc. What do you think the next big narrative will be? L2's GameFi or something else?"
Uh, it's a great. Honestly, I don't I don't do as much research as maybe I should as far as like speculating on what the next thing is. I usually just take other people's word for it and jump in as opposed to like trying to front run it. So I mean, like if you can you give me just a rough explanation what GameFi is?
Well, well, we give you the most down bad eco at the moment. So like Duel
Right.
or Magic or anything along those lines that would
I,
have
I
gaming application.
yeah, that's the only one that kind of jumps out to me as far as like intriguing, and that's just going off a gut instinct, and it might be to do with the fact that I've just bought an Oculus like last week, so I'm
Okay,
kind of
so
fresh in the whole VR mindset.
you're in the metaverse now then.
Yeah, and I am would I really think this can quite. I'm not sure how it would relate to crypto, but I think metaverse VR is actually quite intriguing and fun, quite cool actually. So
Yeah, well, this is
yeah,
this is like for me. I'm not sure in terms of like, because I don't really see any overall narrative for why there would be a play on any region right now. right? Like in
Yeah,
reality, like I don't see any kind of rotation into kind of like bullish areas. The market is moving as one. We're kind of in that kind of unison period. We have some outliers which primarily seem to be from DeFi at the moment that seem to perform better than the market on red days. But overall, in terms of like narrative, I don't really see anything that I would be like, yeah, okay, here's a clear narrative direction that we're heading in. But to Jim's point, one area that I am incredibly bullish on, and where absolutely pretty much every bit of investment that I will make for crypto will go, is to metaverse related plays for the future.
yeah.
So that for me is such a huge area that I've been passionate about for a while. NFTs and metaverse, that continues to be the underpinning kind of investment area that I have for crypto.
Yeah,
So
I totally
we'll see.
totally get it now. Like I can honestly say I've not had as much fun gaming in years as I have over the last like 2 or 3 weeks.
What do you play?
I've been playing like I can't remember the names, but like a couple of zombie games.
Do you play Super Hot?
Yeah, absolutely awesome.
It's
Really
great.
fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Golf games, golf simulators that are like really like quite freakishly accurate actually, like weird.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I just think there's some exciting prospects there for sure.
yeah, agreed. Okay, let's see. Have you had a look at the S&P lately? Any thoughts on US indexes?
Uh, Not really, to be honest. I think it's just going to keep going down. I really do think it's going to come down to like 28, 2900s.
Yeah, I think from the index's perspective, we're at very important levels now to hold. If the intention of this market is to attempt to squeeze up, then these are the levels that need to hold. Because if we fall under these levels, then again we're looking at fresh lows, and whatever comes from that. I think obviously given our market as well, we're in a slightly different position wherein there is like a ton more bad news that can come from our markets, which may also make them very, very vulnerable at times like this as well.
But like, I just don't really still am of the opinion you don't fade the Fed. You know, if they're going to be offloading, I don't know how many billion a month. Uh,
Yeah, and I think
no,
like the
no
the
one's coming
thing.
in to buy that and just support the price. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a very simple thought process. But I remember seeing like maybe 2 months ago, Jay Powell came out and just said the markets are behaving as we would expect the markets to behave. And like as soon as he said that, I was like, well, I mean, that's the most obvious signal that we're going to continue going down that you could have asked for, right? Like he's just openly accepting the fact the markets are kind of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Unlike it was previously, he's basically just being like, actually, yeah, the markets are selling off, and that's what we expect to happen, during this period.
But I think the Nasdaq's a bit cleaner as far as where I would expect price to come on both ES and Nasdaq.
Yeah,
Like if I'm just looking at it purely structurally, like anything from like 86, 8700, I think that's parabola. And I think based on my experience and previous instances of parabola across multiple assets, I think the parabola fully retraces. If you look at it on a weekly, it's much clearer. A monthly chart. Um, I think it retraces all of that personally, because I just don't think because of the nature of the move and how fast it went up, with no real pit stops. We're at the only real logical
yeah,
pit stop now.
yeah,
I think it's just going to come down in the same nature because there's no like I always talk about auction market theory and how a market auctions to establish what its value is. But when something moves up in a parabolic fashion, it skips that auction process. So if it doesn't auction on the way up, it's likely not going to auction on the way down.
yeah, sure. And I think like 12, from a monthly perspective, 12 would have been the level to try and attempt to stabilize. So I think with only, 2 days left on this monthly close and closing below that level, then I do think, it sets the foundations towards seeking out that next area, which, potentially is back down at the nines based on the monthly.
Yeah.
Let's have a have you discussed 3AC at all?
No, not really. Um,
What do you make of that?
uh, well, I was like quite openly trashing them for several weeks prior to the blow up, just for their sort of ludicrous behavior. And it's
Yeah,
just funny how it played out, to be honest. I'm not even shocked actually. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I've had like big concerns about how certain funds operate and protocols operate in this space. I've been really concerned about it for a while, to the point where I've pretty much had all my money off exchanges for quite a long time now,
yeah.
because my problem with the market as it is, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier about this sort of this false confidence and in that like sense of inevitability of where the market should be and it's going, that no one's really factored in anything negative. And the problem with the market right now is there's no money coming in, and basically, usually in markets, like the further it goes down, you get that rebalancing where demand will start to overtake supply. But the way that risk and leverage is structured in this market currently, there's no end to it. Like it should get better the lower it gets, but actually it's going to get worse just based on the structure of how risk is tagged on in this market, because there's no like the long it's basically the long short ratio. It's basically like 80 plus percent long bias in this market, and that's just not healthy. It's not good. So it's just gonna gradually get worse, sadly, in my opinion.
I think like the most surprising thing for me was like the fact that the tweets weren't psyops.
Hmm.
Like that was the most mind blowing thing to me. I was like, when everything came out, it was like, wait a second, like these guys actually were just believers of the content they were putting out.
Yeah, that's
And
why I was warning people about them, because I'd had a couple of conversations with them, and I could just tell that they weren't bullshitting. And then I can't remember which podcast I listened to Sue on, where and it was huge alarm bells to me that he was selling 30k puts because it was a free trade. And as soon as he said that, I was like, this is not this is dangerous. This is dangerous shit that I'm hearing right
I
here.
mean, yeah, I mean, like open selling the puts is absolute a monster. Like the balls to take the sale of 30k puts is pretty outrageous.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I can appreciate if that put alarm bells into your head. Yeah, it's a really interesting environment with the way that everything has been so fucked, and the thing that I kept on saying on stream is like, how in the fuck are supposedly some of the most intelligent people in this space making the decisions that they're doing? You're a fucking average Joe that just invests, however much they want to invest from their salary, is far better at managing the risk and the thought
Yeah.
process than these potential, giga brains that we worshipped on the bull run. I just don't understand how it's possible to fuck up so royally and not appreciate the risks that the market were quite clearly telling you. You know,
Well, again, I hate to blow my own trumpet a bit, but I've been warning people for weeks now that the level of participation in this market from top to bottom is like absolute like the lowest rung. Like you can't, like there's so many morons. And what happens when things are so good, you just people stop doing the due diligence, and it's due to like their inflated egos, and you start hiring uh analysts and risk managers and for these companies, and you could basically go and say, you're basically throwing a dart at a dartboard, and you're inevitably going to look like a genius.
yeah,
And actually, they don't have any idea what they're doing. Like one I saw yesterday, I'm going to call them out because I don't care. I think it's High Block Capital, some guy called Ari. Um, so one of these shit show funds, that the one that's owed 47 million from Ver.
yeah, they're the ones that's making their own coin.
They're making their own coin. They're reponzying the Ponzi. And this
Twenty
Ari
percent
guy
annual.
goes, this Ari guy said it sounds like a better idea than a bailout. And I was like, well, if you're the head of high block capital and you think reponting the Ponzi sounds like a good idea, then we're nowhere near. We're nowhere near. Like these guys are complete fucking idiots. It's actually mind blowing.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that post. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is going on in those offices. Like, I don't know who the fuck is putting out
They're
ideas.
all sat round having fucking group meetings in a circle,
Yeah,
eating fucking avocado and toast,
yeah,
drinking fucking cold brews,
yeah,
just, telling each other how brilliant they are
yeah.
in bean bags. And it's like, that's not the environment to
I'm
manage risk
I'm
and
I'm
trade.
pretty sure what they're doing is they're getting the reply guy with the fewest followers, taking his ideas and then just being like, fuck yeah, this guy's actually really smart. It's like a hidden gem of Twitter, and we're gonna put these ideas out. So when they're like, make a new coin that gives 20% and get it back through that, and it's like, yeah, fuck, what a great idea. Like
Yeah.
what a smart guy.
But there's just been the biggest circle jerk of morons at the top, just like helping each other out,
Yeah.
just tosses all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we're like, I wanted to make a meme of that, that like iceberg meme with all
Yeah.
the different levels, and I wanted to do one of like all the liquidation levels because I think we're teetering on the brink of like the exchange shit show next. Because I think a lot of the exchanges, if there's a mass run for the door exit, I don't think they're solvent enough to. I think they're in the same situation as the protocols to where they haven't got the money to fulfill, massive withdrawals personally.
So what do you think? Somebody asked a question. They said, like, who do you think is the first major exchange in the trash can if we were to get
I
something
don't
like that?
know if you want me to answer that, to be
Yeah, I want you
honest.
to answer it.
I don't know if I want to answer it. Am I going to get in trouble if I'm
Well, we've
wrong? I
got
don't
we've
know.
got top five. So like I saw Splits, put a post up this morning and said um, top top five exchanges, right, as of currently. Do we expect the top five exchanges to remain the top five exchanges, or do we think there's going to be a shift there? So his top five exchanges are Binance FTX, Coinbase, Bybit, and OKEx.
So what's the top two exchanges?
Binance FTX.
Okay. So if I were to say, I think one of the top two exchanges might be in worse trouble than people think.
Okay.
That's
Why? So you go in Twitch ban and lawsuit in one day.
yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, you may as well throw it out on the table now. Um, so I think top two stick. If I was to add my points in, I think top two stick. I think the top three, I would suspect at least one moves out of that top five order at least. I would say that you probably like Coinbase would be okay, but then there would be also potential issues there as well, given everything that's going on with their public venture. So it is an interesting kind of thought process and question. I know you said before, you kind of taken money off exchanges. Like, what's your thought and advice to people who are sat in cash? Because I've always said, I don't ever need to hold USDT or USDC. I never need to hold those. Like, I will hold the Queen's pounds in my bank. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
what's your thought process?
the only money I have on exchanges is that I'm prepared to lose
Yeah,
outright. Um, but just to go back to, I read that article from Sam yesterday.
yeah.
And the one in big bold letters that I think people brushed over that really was alarm bells for me was he said, "We're willing to do a somewhat bad deal here if that's what it takes to sort of stabilize things."
You mean
Like
that? You mean you didn't take much confidence in that statement?
I'm just saying, reading between the lines, if it's not his exchange in trouble, then why is he willing to do a bad deal to help others?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
has he
sure.
spent too much money?
And like, weirdly as well, like Sam has always been quite clear in terms of the messages that he's delivered when people have looked closely enough, because it's like he discussed the Luna stuff like in advance. Like he said, like it doesn't work. Like it's a problem. Um, and he retweeted the piece after it was done. It was a podcast he was on where he just kind of like discussed it. He was just like, it's essentially born to fail. Um, and so weirdly, he has been, relatively transparent in terms of the language that he does use if you are willing to, interpret and dive into the language. A lot of
I
people are
just
saying Sam is bad for the space. Sam's cocky. Sam's
I
coming
don't
for
think
Jim.
he's I don't think he's cocky. He's very young. I think people underestimate.
Yeah, 30 years
He's
old.
it's quite incredible, really.
Yeah.
Um, and I have admiration for him for building such a brilliant. He really made in the bull run. He really made all the correct moves as
Yep.
far as to take away market share from everyone else. Like you got to take your hat off to him. But you know how much money have they spent over the last 18, 24 months, on marketing and etc. And one question I have, because this is one I'm pondering and not sure about, is let's say loads of people took profit when crypto was 2 trillion market cap, yeah, and they didn't take it as USDT or a stable coin, but actually took it as USD and it sat as USD
Yeah.
in your FTX account. Does that money exist, or was it just on paper? Does that make sense? Is
Yeah.
that redeemable, or because is it only redeemable if you take profit as a stable coin as opposed to actualizing it as USD? Um, and if people then want to withdraw that USD, does that money exist?
Yeah, so given the fiat link with FTX wallet in terms of kind of the on and off ramp, yes, redeemable. But I wouldn't know I don't know what that looks like in terms of like reserves, etc. Right? Like I don't know what like the backing process would look like across the entire exchange.
Yeah, because let's
Um
say I'm just throwing hypothetical numbers out. Let's say hypothetically 500 billion was realized in USD profit and it's just sat on exchange. But then that 500 billion gets wiped off the market cap from when it was taken as profit. Where is that money sat? If it's not stablecoin
Yeah.
backed.
So like that would be where I wouldn't know what that makeup would look like. But like I said, given that we know that fiat on and off ramp is available there, I would be under the assumption that there is significant just fiat reserve. But yeah, in terms of like reality of full cash out of huge sums, what does that look like from a fiat perspective? And that would be a question I wouldn't know the answer to. You're putting the fucking fear of God into people.
Well, you've got to think about these things. This is what I do. I don't think many people do it. I will sit for hours sometimes and just ponder certain scenarios because that's where you get a real broad perspective on the general market. Just by sitting and thinking. I don't think people spend enough time thinking. They're too much doing, and you know,
Do
it's
you
worth
know?
thinking about.
Weirdly, it's one of the I've been doing something similar. I've been doing something similar as I've been continuing on my NFT venture, and weirdly, the current scenario that we have in crypto has made me even more bullish on NFTs because, like, when I think about things of things like ownership now, like I feel strengthened in terms of no one can take this away from me as a purchase and
Yeah.
as an investment kind of option. And so like weirdly I've been having like the same kind of like doom thought process and then thinking about NFTs and kind of it strengthens my resolve on that side because I feel far more strongly about the investments that I make there in terms of, it's mine, right? It's done. It's I don't require anything else. It's it's my piece. It's my investment. That's it. Done. Um, so yeah, like the current market situation has kind of made strengthen my bullishness in the NFT side of things. Assuming that the infrastructure as a whole remains in place, that's that would be the only downside. But everything else kind of remains and is mine and independently owned, and don't need to worry about it. Whereas everything I've had, exchange, stablecoin related, I've been a lot more careful about, over recent times, and I've been pretty clear with everybody that when they say what stablecoin do you use, it's like I use pounds, and they sit with me, and I
Yeah,
always think that
very
unless
stable.
unless there is a real reason why people cannot withdraw fiat, then I don't know why you would be in stables. Like there's no great advantage to it,
Yeah.
that would diminish the risk enough. And again, like it's in this economic climate, cash is the fucking king still. Fuck what inflation is doing, right? Like it's
Cash is
still
the
the
best
king.
inflation hedge
Yeah, always. So
because they've got to fix inflation, so they're going to devalue everything against that fiat.
yeah, so like I've literally just been sat there, just I've been like, yep, fiat's fine, and when the situation is better and more stable, then come back in. So
Yeah. Just
um
to go back to the Sam point, why is it that Sam was saying the worst is over a few days ago at the lows
mhm,
when price was trying to stabilize,
mhm.
and then 3, 4, 5 days later he's saying that exchanges might be at risk.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so because the only reason I say that is because I see people in the comments saying it's bad tape, bad tape, bad tape, but it's that kind of naivety and shutting out ideas that gets you into trouble.
yeah. And it's like, I think I can, I absolutely could align with the thought process of, like the market being, in a pretty appalling place in terms of, the impact that we've had to funds and everything else during this period of time. For me solely, that doesn't contribute towards like feeling confident that this is now a bottom, simply because that situation has arisen, and it doesn't matter about who knows how many other funds are going to get drawn into it, right? Who knows how many exchanges are going to get drawn into it if it continues and gets worse. It doesn't necessarily just equate to, well, bottom must be in because X, Y, and Z have happened. So that also would be a concern in kind of shutting out that thought process. Okay, let's see if there's any more questions in here. Metals. You want to say anything about metals?
Oh,
Hmm.
metals. They're not looking great, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've been short on silver since 22,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
with me being a
they
silver
actually
bull.
they really like I own physical silver and I'll
Yep.
maintain owning physical silver. And if it goes down to 17, I'll buy more physical silver
Yes.
because like it's not a huge fraction of my portfolio and I just like having it for that sort of potential implosion that might happen over the next, I don't know, 5, 10 years. I think if there was ever a situation where it kind of pays to possibly own some metals, I think now's pretty good time. If I don't make any money on it, like I can live with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But as far as on, weekly, monthly, they kind of, the RSI looks kind of awful on
Yeah.
them.
The one that I scare people about on metals is the 3 month chart for gold,
Let's have a look. There you go. Oof.
and I scare people about the div on that.
Oh,
And I say, well, what happens if that is the metals top? Like, what
I
happens
would
if this is it?
target I would target 1380, 1360 with that div on any other chart.
Yeah.
The fact I'm emotionally invested in gold.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the fact that I'm a metal bull as well, I'm kind of like refusing to see it where possible. Like I'm like, oh, you know
Yeah.
what? Like this is fine. It probably
But
invalidates, right? It's fine.
if if that I have to go with my yeah, like I have to go with my system that if that was a Bitcoin div,
Yeah.
I'd target like 1300.
Yeah,
no question.
and you'd be mad happy to see that signal develop as well, right? It's like it's such a
Hmm.
nice little signal up at the extension of the highs and the pushes into that region that yeah, you'd be targeting that form of consolidation breakout at the 1300s. Um, but yeah, I agree in terms of overall with the metals picture. I'm a metal bull still. I just, I think silver is in a better position in terms of making ground towards that important level at 17. The issue would then, be if gold had, the big correction in mind.
Yeah, and like, but the way I look at it, I like the only interest I have in metals is owning physical. I don't trade them. Um, like for, it's something I like to own and hold as a so. But yeah, it looks dreadful. It looks like the arse could fall out of the entire global market. To be honest, just everything dies.
Well, I think that's been the scary thing from my perspective is, with the metals being the potential inflation hedge and so far performing very poorly in that regard as well.
Mm,
And the fact that the gold chart represents the setup it does from a technical perspective, kind of having the thought process of, well, what does that global sell off look like? Because the way that gold lines up, it would say that that's, on the cards in terms of gold doesn't look as though it's going to perform well at all. Really, it doesn't look as though there is a market that wants to be the haven, certainly in the accessible markets that we would just look at here.
yeah, it's mental. Actually, it's it's such a shame that over the last 5, 10 years, there's been so much doom posting for a Great Depression that actually, when there's a legitimate scenario playing out to where that's potential, you look like a complete arse, like even contemplating it because everyone's ruined it for the last 10 years. But like, it just feels like everything's aligned for some like real bad shit to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
But I hate saying it because I just look like those morons on Twitter, like that Sven guy, whatever his
Oh
name
yeah, the
is.
one that's bare-posted through the entire
Yeah,
2 years. Yeah,
yeah,
and then he became like a Bitcoin buyer, I think, at like
yeah,
45K or something.
yeah. He did. I think it was even higher. I think it was 53.
Yeah,
So I just don't want to associate with those guys.
yeah,
But I think if you just base it solely on percentages and probabilities, like I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think the probabilities are as high as they've ever been, actually. So,
yeah. I mean, like as I said, like market-wise, if purely and I tend to take that as the truth. I always say that whenever I'm looking at charts, I am I am nobody, and the only information that I can know for fact is what the markets tell me in terms of what they produce on the charts. And gold produces a scary picture, right? Which puts the alarm bells, ringing in my head to the potential outcomes that we have for something like gold melting down as well. So that's it is kind of like the doom thought process, but I think it's also justified based on what the kind of average man can see in the charts and the financial picture currently. Somebody asked, what do you think about USDT FUD? Do you have any opinion or nah?
um, I don't. There's just not enough data. There's not enough data, I think, to make like a real case for or against it. It's too much mystique around it, I think. Like it wouldn't surprise me if it's, garbage, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's I don't have an opinion.
Sure,
I can't form an opinion on it.
sure.
I'd love to. And just to touch on Rabbit's point about perfect storm for a major unwinding, like one argument I would make is I think pre-COVID we were on the precipice of that unwind, and I think COVID saved us from it, even though it did unwind because of COVID. I think it got it over with so quickly that I think it prolonged the bear market, and then I basically stoked the fire for another year and a half, in my opinion. I think
Um,
we were teetering on bear market territory before COVID. So
yeah, I mean, like we. there was certainly, like a lot of discussion around that. I think that's also why kind of like the belief in the rally was also kind of tainted,
Hmm?
right? Like it was a contribution to the factors that were already in play, that then kind of changed up. Um, Someone said, look at Tesla. Yeah, it just looks like lower. 3-day in a poor position for me. Daily is in like a perfect position to be short on. I would say it looks as though the next leg down is imminent. Weekly also looks like it's going to break down, and I would suspect targeting below the 550s and the former support would be the play, and the 440s being the obvious area to move into. So what have you got? 30-40% down from here before finding a next area that may elicit some sort of bounce. I would say would probably be a relatively quick and fair take on Tesla current view. Okay, so we've like successfully doomed as a lot of people. Is there anything that you think would like kind of like change your mind in the short term? Is there anything? Do you think like and we talk about the markets pricing in the future events to the best of their ability? What about discussions on the kind of the pricing in being more advanced than the current climate?
Well, I have to see it to believe it. Like I really try not to predict too much as opposed to react to markets, and like as far as I'm concerned, it's down only until the market shows me a bear trap, and I'll jump in like a proper bear trap. Like I will happily change my tune on a coin,
Yep.
like in an
Yeah. Yeah.
instant on a click of the fingers, like.
Yep.
But it's just not there. It's not there for me to act on. So I can't really change my views until I see that. Really.
Yeah, and that's like the disappointing thing about kind of the overall discussions. It's like they take this darker turn, and we're all we're chatting how it feels as though everything's fucked, and unfortunately that's just because that's what everything currently displays. Like there's nothing we can kind of change about that scenario. It just looks pretty fucked up. And like we can't even move out of these lower time frame regions now on the indexes. Like even on lower time frames, we're just getting smacked above 38.30. Like there's it just seems to be that the trend continues.
Yeah. It's. I mean, yeah. I just don't want any exposure to the upside. Really, I just think it's like low EV. I just don't. You're really fighting against a, you know, strong
Yeah,
current.
yeah. Any thoughts on someone asked about the housing market?
Oh God. I mean, let's leave the housing market for today.
You don't add any more. You don't add any more fuel to that fire, then.
No.
Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like there isn't too much kind of like joy we can kind of put forward at this moment in time. I think BTC chart holding on to the upper 19s is the best hope for us trying to rally. But again, if I was just purely using momentum, then I would say we're waiting for a breakdown, and then it's the reaction to the 18s being the
Well,
next kind of key thing.
just so everyone knows, the lows we put in are trash from the order flow. Like, there's absolutely. I'd say with 95% conviction, we retest the lows.
When you say retest the lows, you mean like down to like 17s or
Oh yeah,
18s?
they're getting
Okay.
swept. They're getting swept.
Oh
I'm
lord.
like 95% conviction of that.
Oh lord.
There's just no volume,
I
no
think
transacting happened. It just died out. It just petered out, and then we
I
got the
think I
short curve
remember
rally.
at the time when the lows were formed. I think I remember seeing posts talking about how poor the lows were, and
Mm.
that my kind of like volume discussion is very very basic in terms of I don't have a strong grasp of that side of things, but I remember seeing plenty of posts discussing the weak lows, and it was during that period of time we were very recent after forming the lows, and even then people were saying like these lows get taken, right? So
Yeah.
it's just kind of it's cycling back to that. Well, they didn't go at that point in time, but what you're saying is it doesn't take away from the fact that they are still kind of shitty lows, and therefore you believe that that inevitably will happen.
Yeah, the level is like the price reverse there without actually test. There's no test of that level. That
Sure.
we didn't test that level. Uh, so
So we got another minimum of 10% down from
oh,
today's
100%. Like
pricing, and then
yeah, I nearly said 100%. 95%, and I'm only saying that. I don't even know why I'm saying 95. I'm almost certain we go back there. To be
okay,
honest, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, you got to you always got a hedge, right? So even the 5% hedge is better than
yeah,
nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Somebody says, did you guys have a traditional finance background before trading shitcoins? No traditional finance background. I traded traditional markets, but wasn't involved in any official capacity there. What about you, Jim? What did you?
So I was in property development. So
Oh shit,
I
that's why I
did.
don't want to talk about property as well. Then.
Yeah, I did. I do.
Oh,
I have followed sort of cycles because everything moves in such a
of
cyclical
course.
nature. Like on like a 5 year time frame is usually what I work by as far as investments go. Um, so yeah, I I've sort of been in the loop for a while without really, getting technical, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, Demetrius says those lows have been begging to be swept from the start, and yeah, I think that was the general message that I picked up on Twitter was that. So yeah, let's see if there's any other questions. We'll run for another 15 minutes. Is that okay, Jim? And then we'll round up.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
Would you hold wrapped BTC in cold storage till next cycle? Uh, I don't really like questions that are to do with like holding, because there's no right answer that either myself or Jim could give you, because if we say no, it's a fucking terrible idea, we're going to go down to like 9.7k and just sell now and be a buyer then, and we could just take off from 15k, right, and have a really successful rally, and then the situation could change. So it's a really impossible question to answer in terms of like, is that a recommendation? um the only thing that I always say is like, it depends on you and your personal situation. Like if selling BTC or if holding it means a lot or not a lot to you, then that's what you have to base your decision off. And also the consideration of the fact that things could get worse before they get better, and even in the future things may not get as nice as you would like them to in future cycles. So there's a whole range of questions to ask yourself, but it's kind of an impossible one to answer off.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't even know what the difference between wrapped and unwrapped Bitcoin is, to be honest. What's the difference between holding Bitcoin over wrapped Bitcoin?
Yeah, I don't know what the benefit of WBTC is. I mean, I barely hold BTC at the best of times, so
Yeah,
even the
me
thought
neither.
of wrapping it would be. Rabbit says, Powell, the process in getting inflation down will involve some pain. That's like
He's
a
changed his tune a bit
yeah. Well, that's
since
like
last
a
week.
yeah. That's like a bit of a Sam quote though, right? In terms of like, it will involve some pain. Like as though we haven't seen any already.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you
I
think you've seen
it's
pain? Wait there.
it's funny watching it this time around because I can't remember a situation where it's so obvious how bad it is that like I don't know how he can get up there with a straight face, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like it's just unbelievable.
Noah says, "What is a good way to hedge your position?" And this was pasted 3 times, so I'm assuming that this is a priority question.
Well, if you've got well, I can't. I don't want to give advice for hedging at these prices.
Give me one
Like
second. I'm just gonna get my
sadly,
dog. I'll let you answer, Jim.
uh, you know, like I'd probably short perps on any sort of 4 hour bear divergences, I suppose. But I don't know. It's such a late time to be hedging. That's half the problem with the market at the minute. Is like that's been half the battle with the funds is they've gone until now to hedge, and now the big funds are hedging below 30k like legends. That'll be how we bottom probably. Is they will end up. It'll be the hedge funds that got wrecked in the downtrend will get wrecked on the squeeze up probably when they're done hedging. Is my bet.
All right, I'm back. Did you answer that or not? Did you?
Vaguely.
Okay, like the political answer.
I said you should have hedged at 69k.
Yeah, well, that's good advice. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
The only thing that I would add is like if your primary thought process is locking in like the USD value of whatever you have, then you just open as close to a perfect hedge as possible with the same asset, and that's it. Like you just forget about it. If you're just like I've got $20,000 and I just want to maintain $20,000, then you just have to try and create the kind of perfect one-to-one hedge, and that's it. You just forget about it, and
yeah,
you're happy you locked in 20k, and you forget about what the market does. So
yeah. Like I just said that. Like East a nice example. It's had obviously a big bounce off the low.
yeah,
Hedge on the 4 hour div. Into resistance, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Keep it simple.
yeah. Do you think oil will keep going up?
I honestly don't look, so I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't paid much attention to oil in a while actually.
I like how you got lean hogs.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the future here. This is the future list when everything goes to shit. We got lean hogs. I think we got coffee up here as well.
I'm
Um,
always memeing lean hogs.
yeah, we'll be doing the full transition into just commodities traders, and that's it.
I mean, I would say based on that RSI, it looks like it's going to rip up
Yeah,
on the daily. That's a pretty exaggerated divergence, if you ask me.
yeah. And even like from a weekly perspective, we'd be concerned about the
Yeah,
highs, but we'd be fine with the RSI doing this, and even like another leg up through here into the
yeah.
130s again
Like
would
look
be
at look at what
setting up.
happened on the last uh
Yeah,
exaggerated div.
here,
Like
yeah.
exaggerated divs like that are like they're real rippers usually, aren't they?
Yeah, especially as soon as they like force past like previous levels, like they're even like great like late entry markets because the extension tends to be huge. Like as soon as you start breaking the high and the RSI starts pushing back, like you tend to get the kind of like ridiculous moves on the back of it.
Yeah,
Like you can see it here through this region on oil. Like there's very little drawdown as well to even just clearing the high. And then you take it from here and you basically you bag like 70% in an oil trade. So
what what is happening?
yeah, so
That's so insane, isn't it?
yeah, ridiculous. Long in instant coffee, yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of wheat discussion as well. Wheat has been a big one. Getting
Well, I
nuked on the
suppose the
weekly.
logical thing is wheat will go up if oil goes up, won't it?
Yeah, wheat is in a far worse place after the insane rally, but yeah, we're starting to get down to interesting areas again.
Yeah.
Good places or people to learn order flow from beyond yourself,
Adam,
Jim.
Abe Trade on Twitter is good.
Yeah, Adam's fantastic and has a
Sting's good. The Kilmex guys are really good. What's his at? C2M underscore Kilmex. Really good. Posts nice stuff. Cantor and Clark, yeah, he knows his shit. But Adam has like a lot of free educational material, so I'd start there.
yeah. Yeah, Adam's feed is very very good.
Magus, yeah,
Yeah,
Magus.
Magus, Trader Magus.
He taught me a lot. So
Yeah, good guy, Magus. Very good guy.
yes, yes.
Just joining, so maybe this has been asked. Is Jim into NFTs?
Um,
When Jim NFT relaunch?
well, I love the whole NFT scene. I just think it's oversaturated with wank, so I
Whoa.
kind of avoid it. But as far I'm very excited about NFTs in the long term. I just think it's a ways away from like really defining what is quality and what isn't quality, and I think
Yeah.
it's just oversaturated with rubbish at the minute. So.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I would agree, and my primary buying has been older, more historically significant, if we want to use that term at this moment in time,
Punks.
pieces. So we'll see
I
in
think
the
punks. I
in the
like
short.
punks.
Yes, yeah, punk's great. And then just the classic squiggles have been another pickup, just because they
Interesting.
tend to hold very, very
I hope
nicely.
Space E goes to zero, to be honest.
Do you? You
I do. I just hate that whole, like, whatever it is, cringe.
oh,
It's
using
like
like the
so
community?
uncool. Like, punk's so cool compared to bass. Bass E's like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Can't think of one. Basie's like the fucking Gucci print of NFTs, you know? You know the guys that wear the Gucci fucking
Yeah,
tracksuits because they want people to know they're wearing Gucci,
yeah,
as opposed to the guy with like the non-branded designer.
yeah,
Punk's like non-branded designer, just
yeah.
quality.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. I mean,
Yeah, Basie is
makes
Ed
sense.
Hardy. That's perfect analogy. It is the Richard Hart of NFTs. It is.
Yeah, it's like I think that they've done a huge amount in terms of pushing NFTs to kind of where they can be in terms of brand, like the kind of like brand recognition of it, and like the way that companies could utilize things like that, and people can get behind it. I think they've made huge steps forward in that side of things. But I think in terms of like my mindset at the moment has been way more focused on more of like a traditional art backing
Yeah.
versus a brand play. But then saying that, like I'm a huge owner of their metaverse stuff, so I also don't want to fud my own bags by shitting on them, because I've got high hopes for the metaverse solution that they deliver in the short term.
No, I totally agree. It's a fair comment about what they've actually built as far as community and everything's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just think the community itself is cringe.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like some of the copy pastas that came out of NYC were great. Like the fucking fake ape. Do you see that
Yeah,
one? The fake ape shit where that guy just like popped off at somebody who like disrespected him, or like knocked a
yeah.
pizza out of his hand or some shit. Like Jesus Christ.
They're the guys that when you go to the club, they've got like sparklers in their champagne, and it's the only way they can get girls because they
Yeah,
just can't talk to them. Like
yeah,
they wear bootcut jeans.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh well, while we're talking about that, how's your life going?
yeah,
Do you
good,
see the way that
fine,
you see the way that I led on from can't talk to girls
beautifully done. As soon as I
into
mentioned bootcut jeans, you were in.
no, it was when you say can't talk to girls, because I thought about the
Oh.
last I thought about the last interaction that
Oh,
you had.
well, it might be to do with the bootcut jeans. Maybe
Oh
that's where
really?
I'm going wrong.
And your
Yeah,
and your BAYC on your phone that you were just showing it to
yeah,
everyone. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Your wallpaper is you just holding it up in the club just to show everyone.
Uh, no, it's good. I'm trading Mondays, Tuesdays, and then that's about me done for the week.
All
Really,
right,
there's
nice.
quite a lot of actionable, repeatable trades that I keep taking. It's just
Yeah,
the same trade every week, which is nice.
yeah.
And then just enjoy my life really. Like I went to see Red Hot Chili Peppers on Saturday, which was unbelievable.
Amazing.
And they had Thundercat and Anson Pack on with them, which was pretty insane.
Did you go on
Uh,
holiday?
I went away in this country. I was going to go to Primavera Sound in Barcelona.
Okay.
It was a last minute thing. I was going anyway. My mate was like, "I've got a free ticket." Well, I was planning to go anyway. Sorry, but then I checked my passport; it was expired. But actually, my new passport came today. So
Okay, so you're
it was,
free. You're free to get out and go
yeah,
somewhere if you want to go. Yeah, I basically did the same. I think I've taken one trade on Aave, which was stopped out in a month, and then all I've been doing is playing just like ridiculously aggressive puts and calls for literally like a few $100s at a time,
yeah,
and that's about all I've been doing. I've been trying where possible to take a step back, and I saw somebody posted the other day, and they said like the people who were here 2018 through kind of 2020, they kind of like did their grind then, and the majority of accounts that I see from back then are basically just not doing anything at the moment.
yeah.
Like they're just they kind of like they've given the market their time, and now they're just like fuck this, like not another period of this.
Yeah, but it's yeah. Uh, but as far as long as there's actionable trades set, I'll take it. But like I literally take the same trade, two trades pretty much every week. Like it's actually hilarious. Um,
And still getting paid on it, obviously.
every week, every yeah. Like I caught both highs on ETH actually, like quite nicely this week. So that's me done for the week.
Well, the highs on ETH this, I think the last two major highs that I've seen have both been 15-minute divergences quite strongly. So
Yeah,
like this high here, when was this? Yesterday?
yeah. It's just perfect. It's perfect that one because it's basically my favorite setup where it squeezes into US Open, takes all the stops, and then nukes. So,
And
uh,
I was super unfortunate. Well, I wasn't super unfortunate on this one. This is where, I posted my calls to you and you said I hope they expire worthless. Well, that's
yeah.
that's come true. So that's the first
Oh,
point. um,
sorry.
that's okay. That's fine. I took them for the first. So I took them for the first. I mean, look, well, there's a chance, right? There's a chance
Exactly.
we can do 40% that I need to get paid or whatever. That's fine. Um, I basically I took the thought process here that given the rotation back from where the RSI was here and the movement that we started to see back around and the sweep that we'd seen of the level over here at the 1180s, I was like, I'm pretty happy to try and take aggressive calls into this region. So what I
Yeah.
was basically looking for is, ideally I wanted this region at sort of the 1400s to be tagged. And I thought
Okay.
if they're gonna bust, I thought maybe we can do it here, being aware that obviously this high had already been taken from this region. So I thought,
Yeah.
oh shit, I'll go for the aggression and I'll try and play into 1300 calls. And if this is the breakout, then obviously I'm going to get paid big because I think we go hard and fast up here.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously the market with its bullshit little 15-minute divergence decided to make it like a local high and then just puke us down the other side.
So the way I played it completely opposite to you, which is what's interesting, isn't it, about markets? So one of my actionable trades is I short pretty much every Sunday. um, and I saw the sort of the 4 hour RSI sort of
Yeah, here.
div starting to print. So I got in a real nice entry at like 1270. Um, Rode it down and then I saw it consolidating. And as it started spiking up, I closed it around 1220. It didn't really play out how I wanted it to play out.
Yeah,
Because like my thought process for closing it was the initial short I got is such a like mechanical trade of taking those stops that I wondered if it was going to spike back up and
yeah,
have another nibble. So I waited, and then yeah, we got the 15-minute div with the US Open trap yesterday.
yeah.
So I entered again, and I closed at around 1150.
Okay,
I've still got
nice.
touch running on that, but uh, only 20%.
Yeah, I took like a breakdown short yesterday at 12:02. So basically just got this region here on like the start of the sell off and I'm still full position short currently.
Yeah,
I haven't taken anything off yet just because there's been nothing I don't think that has kind of deviated me away from that path. And I'm also aware of like, the chunk on BTC below 19.5 that if we move through, then obviously it's going to continue lower as well. Um, this play here for me it was a really kind of awkward one because the divergence gave like the 10% pullback, which also contributed to my thought process of playing into the calls for the break.
yeah,
Because I was like, right, we're up against the resistance, we've taken the highs, but we're not reacting that strongly in terms of the push down that we've seen from it. And through this region as well, we had like this like lovely build up all the way through here.
yeah,
And so I was like, well, originally when we got this sweep of the highs, I was like, right, we're gonna start making, inroads to attacking this. And then once we started to hold up and this tag here came in, and we got this bounce, I was like, you know what? This could try and drive for the 14s from here. And the daily in the 12-hour was still in a relatively nice kind of picture overall. So I thought, oh shit, I'll take the aggressive option. And then obviously market
It
just
was
turns and says no,
a
no.
really nasty period of price action, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think the
Um,
swings have been similar to the way that the indexes have worked, because we were looking at this in the group, and like all of this back and forth kind of high swings, even though market structure remains unbroken, they're just like nasty moves back and forth.
so the only reason, this is a bit of alpha for everyone, the only reason I confidently took the second short was just because I have enough data to know that 30-minute candles that open green, I call them stick opens on the US Open, where they open without a lower wick usually and spike up. And then obviously the confidence with taking the stops. The probability, there's such high probability that those candles close red, we end up moving the opposite direction is so high. It's been one of my best setups over the last sort of 2 or 3 months. It's US Open stick open cycle.
We had a discussion on those when you were on the stream the first time,
Mm,
around those, because I think one happened while we were on stream or just before we came on stream, and you were basically just like, this is like the classic gym setup basically that I've just been playing, is just like harvesting these opens that just open with no wick,
yeah,
and just take off, and they're always basically undone.
yeah.
So yeah, I
Oh, so it's
guess.
been a long time since we're doing that trade.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
it's
automatic for me
yeah,
now,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. You just
very
yeah,
actionable.
yeah, and it's was it. How did you stumble across the 30 minute?
Uh, I've just been liking how the RSI like develops on the 30-minute recently, because we've been getting a lot of bar patterns where the momentum just dies while price stays pinned, and then you get the actual the volatility comes through. Um,
Yeah, yeah, because we've been. It was a question that I had this morning that somebody said, the divergences on the hourly have been relatively like poor playouts.
yeah,
And actually, their mindset was kind of in a really good space, because they said the divergences on the hourly have kind of been really bad, from the bullish perspective, which again we would expect in these trending conditions.
yeah,
They said, actually, it seems as though, should I be looking for kind of lower time frame bearish divergences? And the answer is yes. You can see, if you just go back and look at some of these charts, the effectiveness of hourly bull divs versus 15-minute bear divs has been significantly stronger on the downside than it has been on the upside.
yeah,
So, I think the 15-minute has produced really, really good signals for ETH lately. This high over here producing a really nice divergence across the highs and giving you a really good impulsive sell-off. There was another cluster of highs that I took. I think it was this region over here. Yeah, basically exactly the same setup as we've seen.
yeah. Lovely.
Like exactly the same 15-minute, and then just like full puke, and then range, and then puke lower again. So the 15-minute divergences, especially at these high regions across this resistance at 1250 plus for ETH, seems to be kind of money printers for now. So
Yeah,
stick with the lower time frame if you can catch the bearish divergences. It's some of the alt markets have been producing hourly divergences. I know that Ape was a particularly good example of something that produced hourly divs across the highs, through here, and on the 4-hour as well. Sorry, the hourly here.
oh
Just
yeah,
nice
it's nice.
simple divergences across the highs into key areas. Another one through here. So still the bearish divs are the ones getting paid versus trying to counter trend trade
Yeah,
this.
and the hardest part of the minute is just being patient for them, because
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was
quite
another
slow,
question.
but
Yeah,
slow.
yeah. It was another question. Somebody said, like basically they feel the urge to be positioned and to be looking for the positions versus waiting for the kind of like medium time frame trades they would take with greater success. And that's like one of the points. It's like you always have to rationalize the fact that you might have to wait longer. It's like a swing trader. You have to wait longer for your setup, but when you do, you get paid. right? Because you know the effectiveness of the setup, you know what you're looking for, you're comfortable with trading it, you know how the market responds, and you get paid. That's where your money comes in. So you just have to sit on your hands until you're presented with those money generating opportunities versus wasting money and reducing your profits by trying to piss about with lower
Yeah.
time frames or setups you don't understand as well.
And also take note of what days were do the initiative moves happen and what direction are they? Because, like I say, I pretty much trade solely Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Because any sort of size in the market, the moves happen on those 3 days, and it's usually a down move. You usually get sort of positioning coming into the market Sunday night through to Tuesday, and then you'll likely get unwinding of positions going into the end of the week. That's how it works now. It's basically the ES again. So shorts are definitely higher probability at the start of the week than they are at the end of the week, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then somebody said, didn't Sailor just load up 10 million spot on BTC a few hours ago? I think it
Nice
was it was previously, but I mean,
legend.
yeah, I mean, like what average is 30K now. So like gone are the days where we would look and say, fuck, his average is, we're 2x his average. Is now,
Imagine if he'd just been like, what makes me laugh about Sailor is he's got this massive long time frame,
yeah.
but he literally went all in on the first
Well,
bull
that's
market.
it. That's the thing that I don't understand. Like I'm like, yeah, sure. Like you can have the conviction you've got, but do you need to have spent like 4 billion or whatever the fuck you spent in terms of putting value into it? Because like I even though you're investing for the long term and you can use that as kind of like whether or not that's the fundamental message that you truly believe or whether or not it helps him to cope with the situation, like why are you not spreading that out, right? If you're investing long term, you've got plenty of fucking time to be buying.
Yeah,
So I don't understand the kind of like, yeah, the
rush.
yeah.
Um, I think a lot of it's marketing ploy as well, but that during the bull run, but
Yeah.
to generate more interest, but it still seems silly how he's done it.
All right, so let's this is a we'll finish up with this question, Jim. So Almond Nut says, can you comment on the OI and the order flow for BTC? And I know you've commented on that already, but do you want to kind of give us the summary parting piece of what's currently happening and overall
Uh,
finishing thoughts?
yeah, I mean, as far as microstructure goes, the way I'm interpreting it is you've got small traders betting on bullish momentum that are buying into big traders that are willing to sell, basically. Um, and that's not how you want to see a market structured, basically.
Yeah.
You want to see big buyers buying into small buyers, not small buyers buying into big sellers. So, um, yeah,
Cool.
I hope that
So
summarized it well enough.
continuation lower and again just Jim's Jim's thoughts being as clear as he can possibly make them by saying 95% sure that the 18K level breaks and that we retest the original lows. So it's pretty clear in terms of like Jim's overall thought process.
We're seeing quite a lot of like generic sort of obvious longing around this 20K. The allure of getting an entry at 19,999 over as opposed to 20K is, too tempting for a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of open interest building on the long side at this level, and there's no real follow through. So I think I'd be surprised if this holds today.
It feels as though like my parting thoughts for this, like it feels as though like this is the grind up, right? It's like over a week, and like it feels as though we're now going to be entering like the acceleration phase of this sell off, because this whole grind up, this to me is now the sort of price action that we're going to very quickly start doing this, right? In like
Yeah,
in a quicker period of time, it just unwinds all of this build up here.
yeah.
And
I'd imagine it's probably going to stop at like 19K. It
yeah,
seems like every round number, the same like small longs pile in on the round number.
yeah.
So we keep go down in like $1,000 increments. It's quite funny actually.
So final thoughts on my side. I think that any move back into 20.5 and any taking of this is probably an area to be interested. Especially if we start to diverge into that region. And then obviously you're looking for the breakdown here of the 20,000 level that's been defended so far since 20th of June. We'd be looking for the lower time frame breakdown. If that breaks down, obviously that's our natural resistance point, so we'd be looking for price action to be capped there on any recoveries, and then target of down here. And I think the only kind of thought process that would counter that, or at least slow down the thought process in my head, is the fact that, like I've demonstrated before, these 12-hour divergence similarities across the lows and entering this more ranging period that we saw in a region like this. So that's the only kind of caveat that I would put in is, the market looks in a pretty poor position. It looks as though there's some pretty clear lower time frame levels you can map out and base your trades from. There are some pretty obvious loss points that would be a concern for the market, and the only thing to kind of slow down the expectations of doom and fresh lows would be the fact that the 12-hour has had a tendency after these divergences to range for a little bit longer in terms of period of time through here.
And that level you drew, I'd say, even though I do believe that the lows are going to get tested, it doesn't necessarily have to be from here. If it reclaims 20.5,
Yeah.
then we may get that move that everyone was anticipating before it failed up to 22.6.
Yeah.
23K. Not ruling that out. It could happen.
Yeah. We'll put that in the 5% chance.
Yeah. Got a hedge at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta give you a lot. I'll give you a long trigger.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
taken
right at the end.
Yeah, it's taken 2 hours for Jim to say that you might manage to squeeze 7-8% upwards here if the 5% plays out.
Yeah.
Cool. All right then, Jim. Appreciated. Thank you very much for coming on. Well, actually, I mean, I've been the angel that's given you a platform because Twitch has violently taken that away from you. So, no, that's fine. So hopefully that everything gets sorted on that side of things. A big thank you to everybody for joining and contributing and discussing today. I hope that Jim's thoughts haven't scared you too much, along with my kind of baiting into discussing more and more doom-based scenarios. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. I'll be back on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Jim is at Jim Talbot, Talbot. If you want to check out Jim.
Do you mind if I link my YouTube in the?
And absolutely,
chat?
you link your YouTube wherever
It's
you
not
like.
got a channel name; it's all numbers. So
Yeah, fine.
there you go.
You link it wherever you want. Are
It's
you
not
able to post
malware,
a link?
guys. It's not malware.
Okay, good. I'm pleased. This is going to be another ban. So hopefully you've got Jim's info and Twitter info if you wanna see more and hear more of Jim, and hopefully we'll be back on stream very, very soon. Cool. So I'll see you guys on Sunday night. Thank you for tuning in, and